back somebody or a human or even an animal into a corner and they have no other recourse, then that's sometimes what happens.
Hi, my name is Kim Patterson. I'm the innkeeper here at the historic Matewan House Bed and Breakfast. I fix your breakfast, I check you in, check you out, take care of whatever needs you have while you're here. We want to make sure that everybody has a great stay. When something happens, everybody pulls together to take care of everybody. We're in Matewan, West Virginia. I love the mountains here. Come visit.
You know, they really were taking advantage of it, I think. And yeah, you look back at history, and that's the way it played out. Well, the evils here came here from New York City in the form of the coal company owners and what have you, that took advantage of poor mountain folk that you know, were self-sustaining before they came here, and ended up becoming their slaves, basically. It's kind of hard for people too, you know. Here all of a sudden, some of them are actually living on the same land that they were living on before, that they actually owned at one time. Now they don't own it anymore, and people are dictating terms to them. They don't even, you know. I talk about the script that we have in our little store up there. You know, it's a piece of history that people can carry around with them, but it's something we need to carry around with us so we don't forget. And I said, you know, the thing about it is, that poor miner that took that script to that coal company and traded it for something to eat or something to work with or whatever, you know, the only way that he could break that bond, because he never did get his hands on U.S. currency to even get, you know, a train ticket to get out of town. And back then, that was the only way in and out of here to civilization. You had to lay down everything that you could carry that you might have owned outright, if you owned anything that wasn't the coal companies or, you know, the company store, and just walk out with nothing. And that took a lot to be able to do it. A lot of people couldn't break that bondage, and so the economic slavery that was that caused is why, you know, in later years you had a lot of the violence. It wasn't because people here were violent, but, you know, you back somebody or a human or even an animal into a corner and they have no other recourse, then that's sometimes what happens. A lot of people ask me why I come back to Matewan, and it's because of Sid's commitment to the people and to the miners and to what he thought was right or wrong. Sid Hatfield and my great-grandmother were brother and sister. Matewan Massacre or Battle of Matewan, whichever one you want to call it, on May 19th, 1920. Sid, from what I can gather, some of the more well-to-do people in town didn't really care for Sid being the chief of police. But at that time, Matewan was like a, you know, Wild West boomtown. Thousands of people within a mile of Matewan. A lot of things going on, you know, roughhousing on the weekends and things like that, and so forth and so on. And you had to have somebody here to keep the peace. And it was said that Sid was known to be a little bit rough around the edges, and they didn't approve of that. Mayor Testerman kind of seen it that he was the guy for the job, just stood down. And of course, you know, the coal company's version is totally different. And so I guess that's the reason that, you know, Sid and the other 20-some defendants in the trial after the Matewan Massacre, that's the reason they were acquitted or found not guilty, is because of the total, you know, diverse way that they explained it. You know, the coal company said, you know, Sid snuck up behind one of the detectives and shot him without him even knowing he was armed and all this stuff. And then, of course, the other version of it where it was basically like the old Wild West, you know, you had a standoff, shot rang out, the mayor drops to the ground, then all, you know, what broke loose. And basically that's the version that I know, and the version that I've heard more of. When you start taking events that happened over 100 years ago, it's almost impossible with 100% assurance to tell anybody what happened. And if you do, you're lying through your teeth. Is that the reason the mayor liked him so well, and the reason they were best friends, is his loyalty. And Sid, and that was the reason that a lot of people thought that it was odd that Sid married Jase within just 10 days or so, or within 2 weeks of the time of the mayor's death. But the thing about it is, you got to look at the perspective on it. Is back then women didn't have a lot of rights like they do now, especially when it comes to taking over property. And the mayor, of course, was had Tesserman's jewelry store, and she had a small son to take care of, and her chances of survival on her own here were slim as that. And the mayor and Sid both knew that at any time, either one of them or both of them could have been killed, because they'd refused bribes by the coal company and so forth and so on. And so, I think that was one of the things that set him apart and probably made him a better candidate to be the chief of police. But it was trust. It was somebody he could trust that he was going to stand up and do what he had to do to protect, Jase and everything after. And I guess they thought that was the best way, was to, for them to be married. Then, of course, she had somebody to protect her, and, he wanted to keep his word. And the coal company, they framed it a totally different way, and basically said, that Sid killed the mayor. Now, I'm going to put it to you, just like I put it to everybody else. If you're faced off in a gunfight, or a potential gunfight, are you going to somehow take time out to fire the first shot at your friend, and nobody's going to see you do it right out in the open in front of everybody? Doesn't quite make sense. So I'm just going to leave it right there. I think it was mainly just a scheme or a plot. We could just use those words, a plot, to get Ed and Sid to Welch, West Virginia, in their territory, where they had bought the coal company, bought the town basically off what they failed to be able to do here. And they were going to make sure that they did away with the folk hero and the miner's hero that Sid had become, and show that this is what happens to you when you buck the coal company, and you just don't do that. And that's what they set out to do. Kind of backfired on them a little bit, as you know, with Blair Mountain happening shortly thereafter, the largest uprising since the Civil War, armed uprising. In my opinion, that's what that was all about. They knew that he was never going to set foot in that courthouse. There was never going to be a trial. I'm sorry, but being a typical Hatfield, I have no sympathy for him. If there ever was a change of venue that they should have done, they should have not even, applied for to have court here. When they went in, they should have made a motion, said, there's no way we're going to get a fair trial here. We need to move this to another city, because they weren't going to win Mingo County. I think that, a lot of people ask me why I come back to Matewan. And it's because of Sid's commitment to the people and to the miners and to what he thought was right or wrong. The shape this town's in economically, and we need to do whatever we can. And so that's the reason I feel compelled to do what I'm able to do. As a working person, I don't have a lot of money, but if I can convince people to come back to Matewan and get Matewan to grow again, then that's why I'm here.